Hello everyone, today I'm here to do another recent reads video. So you guys know I'm not doing wrap-ups a lot anymore because I don't read enough each month. Garner a wrap-up video, so I thought I would just do recent reads when I read like 4 or 5 books, which takes me like a month and a half because 2 kids now. So anyway, today I'm talking about 5 books. They are all different genres. I think like 2 thrillers, 2 romance, and maybe a woman's fiction. So we have a lot of different genres to talk about. Some of my memories of them might be a little bit foggy because it's been like a month since I've read them, so please forgive me on that. I'll try to do the best I can. I wrote down notes a little bit, so let's just get into it. First up is a book that's not coming out until next year. I think like maybe even March. I just really wanted to read it, and that is the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This is my second book by her. I read The Sundown Motel last year, maybe the year before, and I really enjoyed it. It's a mystery thriller as well as this one, The Book of Cold Cases. So this one is all about this true kind of crime blogger, like forum person named Shay. She works as like a receptionist at a doctor's office, but she runs like this like forum discussion site that talks all about cold cases because she's really obsessed with it. And then one day enters in her kind of a patient enters into her doctor's office, and she notices that it's like this famous like woman in their town that's been accused of murders like many years ago, but she got off scot-free. And Shay's always wondered, like, did this woman really do it? And eventually they start talking, and the woman's like, okay, you can interview me, you can talk to me about it. And I never talked about it to anyone. So Shay's like, oh my gosh. So she starts going over to her house, and she learns more about it and more undercoverings about this murder spree that happened years ago, if this one really did it or not. So it's got a lot of culmination of things. You get 2 timelines. Simone St. James is really known for that, the 2 timeline things of what's going on now and then what's really happened in the past. So you get to see Shay uncovering the truth now and trying to figure out things. She's also going through her own trauma as well of something that's happened to her. And also you go back in time to this woman, sorry I forget her name, of what really happened. Did she murder those people? Did she not? Who's to say? But I actually really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I haven't read a Simone St. James book that I haven't liked. They're all solid reads. She also always does a hint of paranormalcy. Is that the right word? Paranormal stuff in him. And she never really explains it. It's just kind of there. At the end of this book, I was kind of mad because I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. But in this video, I've also read another Simone St. James books, and I just kind of realized that's her writing style. It's mostly like trying to uncover this big mystery thriller and then also having this paranormal aspect in the background that is just kind of there. It's never really explained, but it adds to the atmosphere to it, adds to the nuance of it. So I really enjoyed this one. It's a great one. I would highly recommend checking it out next year. Sorry, this is the only book I will say that came out next year, so at least there's that. So I gave it a 4 out of 5. All right, next up we have The Sweet Spot by Trish. This one also comes out next year. I forget what date. Here it is right here. So if you don't know, I read Trish book Float Plan, which is right up here, this past year, and I loved it. Easily one of my favorite books of the year. You guys know I've talked about it a ton. It's an underrated read that is romance, but it also is a lot of character development, very deep and kind of a lot of character development, like I said. So this one's kind of like a sequel companion novel to this one. You don't have to read Float Plan at all to read this one. I would recommend it because it does have adjoining characters. But in this book, we have our main character, Rachel, who's actually the sister of our character in Float Plan. So that's why they're kind of connected. And she doesn't have the best relationship with her daughter's dad, but she's just kind of meandering with life. She has this really great job at a hotel, and then somehow she gets fired from it because of sexual harassment. And nobody believes her that this happened. And somehow she gets this opportunity to be a hotel manager at this very like kind of new brewery hotel in Lake Erie. And whenever I hear Lake Erie, I think automatically of the movie That Thing You Do, one of my favorite movies of all time. So she decides, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Why not? Life's short. So she takes her and her daughter and she moves to this, like, it's a island off of like Lake Erie or something like that. And she learns that no, she's not just like managing this brewery hotel. They're still like building and getting it ready. And so she meets this guy named Mason, and he is opening this, and he's like, I really need your help. Like, I need to get decor, I need to figure out the theme. And so that's what it pretty much is. She helps him start this company from the ground up. And I thought it was really cool that it was like a brewery and a hotel. Like their whole thing was like you went in and you could see how beer is being made and stuff like that. And I'm interested in that, not a ton. A lot of my husband's friends really love different craft beers and stuff like that. I don't get it, but whatever, to each their own. But it was interesting in that regard. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5. It was nowhere near the float plan in my opinion, but I did really like Rachel. She was a very solid character, a great mom that had a good head on her shoulders, and obviously there's a romance brewing between her and Mason, who has been through a lot of stuff. Like I kind of wish I knew the stuff that he had gone through before I read this book, because it was a big trigger for me. And I will tell you, it is loss of a child. So just in case that's really something hard to read, maybe steer clear of this book. But overall, I did really enjoy the friends that she made in this really, really small, like kind of lake town, if you will. And I also really enjoyed reading about how they opened up this brewery hotel, and thought that was really, really cool. But it just wasn't 100% there for me. I would recommend it if you like the float plan. I keep saying the float plan. It's just float plan. But it was good. It wasn't one of my favorites. I do really enjoy Trish Dollar's writing, and I will read more for future books, but it was 3.5 for me. I do like that it focused also on a single mom, because that's the reality of it. My mom was a single mom as well. That's how it goes a lot of times, and it should be talked about more. So 3.5 out of 5. Not one of my favorites, but a solid book nonetheless. Next up is Runaway Girl by Tessa Bailey. So this is the sequel to her book Getaway Girl. And you do have to read Getaway Girl to read Runaway Girl. I'm just gonna say it. So Getaway Girl is all about this character that she goes to her like estranged cousin's wedding, and she learns that her cousin like just pieced out of the wedding, and so the groom's left at the altar like, what the heck? And she kind of like helps him out and whisks him away, because he's also going to be the mayor of Charleston. And so that's what the first book's all about. The second book follows the bride that left the altar. Her name is Naomi, and she realizes that her whole life has always been planned out for her. She was going to marry the mayor of Charleston. She was going to have kids, but she's like, I've never made any decisions of my own. So she decides to leave her own wedding and kind of just hightails it to Florida. And there she meets this guy named Jason and his sister Birdie. And somehow she gets a job being Birdie's pageant coach, because Birdie had just lost her sister. Birdie and Jason are brother and sister, and they both lost Birdie lost her twin sister this past year, and her sister was all about pageantry and stuff like that. And so Birdie wants to honor her memory by running in this pageant. So Naomi, is a pageant girl, so she decides to help her out, and there it kind of goes from there. Obviously, this is a very steamy romance book because it is a Tessa Bailey book. I read a lot of Tessa Bailey books when I'm kind of in a rut, because they're just easy, fast reads to get me out of that rut. That's just me. I gave this one, again, a 3.5 out of 5. I did like I did like Getaway Girl a little bit better. I like the romance more. I felt the chemistry was really there. This one, the chemistry was there. It was okay. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I really enjoyed the relationship that Naomi and Birdie really had. It was really great. I really enjoyed it. But I mean, if you just want a quick, fast, steamy romance read, any Tessa Bailey book will do. That's just my personal opinion. There you go. It was cute. It was enjoyable. It just was kind of a good book to read to get me kind of out of a funk, if you will. Next up is our women's fiction book, and that is Just Haven't Met You Yet by Sophie Cousin. This is my second book by her. I read her first book last year. What was it called? This Time Next Year, and she writes kind of holiday-ish romance books. This one's not really holiday-ish, really. I don't know. But this one was okay. I think I felt the same with just This Time Next Year. It was just kind of okay. So this book is all about a character named Laura, and her job is she works for like this blog or this company, and she runs this feature of how these two people fell in love. She gets kind of like a column. She records a video and things like that. She's big on the proponent of love, because her parents' love story, who have both passed away, have this big grand love story where she found like this necklace, or like this half of a necklace, and then he had the other half, and they fell in love. And Laura's always known like their love story was just epic and just amazing, but her dad passed away when she was very, very young, so her mom's always told her this. And so the company's not doing so well, so Laura's like, hey, how about I go to Jersey, which by the way, Sophie, I'm pretty sure Sophie Cousins is a British author. She kept talking about Jersey, and I'm like, why are we just not going to call it New Jersey? Like, that's a state in the US. And so I'm like, she's going to go all the way to New Jersey? Her parents met New Jersey, but they kept saying Jersey. And finally, I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, Jersey's like an island near Guernsey. you know that movie, the potato, oh gosh, I can't even pronounce that. The potato peel pie, something like that. Guernsey Island. It's near that. And so it is an island called Jersey. And me as an idiot was like, why is she going all the way to New Jersey? Mom brain, tired brain, whatever. Anyway, she goes to Jersey where her parents met and fell in love, and she decides to research their story. And of course, the more she researches it, the more she learns maybe her mom wasn't actually entirely factual of how her and her dad met. Maybe she told Laura a lot of things that were like rose-colored, things that were maybe better than they appeared. And so Laura's learning more about her parents and maybe about the way what really happened, the strangeness of it, things like that. And Laura discovers a lot about herself and the idea of love, because she's always just has this idea of having a meet cute, falling in love and things like that. And of course she meets this guy. It's like a cab driver that kind of shows her all around Jersey of where her mom have always said this is where they went and things like that. It was cute. I give it a 3 out of 5. It was definitely a woman's fiction novel. The romance is on the back burner for sure. It's more about Laura discovering who she is and just the idea of love in general, and discovering maybe like love isn't always so cookie cutter, that things happen, stuff like that. I don't know if I would recommend it a ton. It was okay. Maybe if you're a big lover of women's fiction, check it out. But I just found it kind of okay. I kind of really pushed myself to finish it because it was a neck alley book and I was like, I need to review it. And by the end, I was happy I finished it because it was a solid like women's fiction read, but I just didn't love it. I wasn't super invested in it. I did like the island of Jersey and I loved learning about it and things like that. No, an idiot me was like, New Jersey, Jersey. Anyway, I gave it a 3 out of 5. And the last book I actually have a physical copy of. I got it on my library. And that is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James, quickly becoming one of my favorite mystery thriller writers. This is one of her earlier books. So this one is, again, takes place in 2 timelines. So we have 2014, we have Fiona, who is a journalist, and her sister was found murdered years ago. And her sister's boyfriend was tried and convicted and for murder, but Fiona can't stop revisiting the event, is feeling something that is not 100% there about the case. And so her sister, like I said, was found murdered, but her sister was found murdered like in the fields near this like kind of old abandoned girls' school called Idlewild Hall. Say that like 50 times fast. Good luck. But anyway, so she's learning now that somebody is restoring that. And so she decides to investigate it more, and maybe doing that will bring her answers to her sister's murder and figure out like kind of the missing puzzle pieces. Meanwhile, we go back into 1950 while at the school that's being still very much going on. And we have, a whole bunch of girls, you get a whole bunch of girls' perspectives that go to that school and they say this place is haunted, things like that. And so you have that going on. So with Simone St. James books, there's kind of a murder, and then you kind of get 2 kind of timelines that go back and forth, again, with a paranormal aspect to it. I really enjoyed this book, 4 out of 5. I think I've given every Simone St. James book a 4 out of 5. They're solid reads. I really enjoy them. I don't know which one is my favorite. I really enjoyed this one. It took me a little bit of time to get into, but the ending was really great. I loved how it all tied together. I loved the paranormal aspect of this book. I don't want to tell you what it is because I think it will spoil it for you. It adds to the kind of scariness, to the atmospheric. It's a great book to read in the fall. It definitely's got that creepy vibe because you got this old kind of all-girls school that like people sent their girls to when they like were being bad, or like a lot of them were like illegitimate daughters back in the 1950s that they didn't want anyone to know about. So they would send them to that school to like be hush hush. So no one knows about this school and no one wants to attend it. So I really love that. I also love Fiona was trying to really figure out her sister's murder. Like something was missing and she couldn't quite piece it together. So I really enjoyed it. Like any Simone St. James book will do. I've read 3 of them now and I really enjoy all of them. I know she's got a few more that I want to get to that are really backlist. So if you have any of those that are your favorite, let me know. I don't know which one's my favorite. I might have to read all of her books and do like an author video because I just really enjoy her books a ton. So this is a great one to read, especially, you know, I know we just kind of ended spooky season, but like, you know, the fall is kind of that kind of mystery thriller vibe. So it's a great book to read during now. So there you have it. Those are 5 recent reads that I've read. You guessed it, recently. I would love to know if you've read any of these, what your thoughts and opinions are. Maybe I convinced you to read them. Maybe I convinced you not to read them. I would love to know either way. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.